If you've watched any of the Rattlecan channels, you'll know I like things simple. I like a big truck with a commanding view of the road and not a lot of smart features. I like people to just leave me alone because, I've got stuff to do. But when you see a need, you need to fill that need. And the need we're going to talk about today involves me, Mrs. Rattlecan, this little, very smart car, and a whole lot of miles. Stand by. Now, our son used to live in Tucson, Arizona, and then he joined the Navy, and the Navy sent him to school way up in Connecticut. So he thought it'd be kind of nice if I had a car, and, well, we didn't have anything to do. So Mrs. Rattlecan and I decided that we would hop on a jet from our home in Dayton, Ohio, and we would shoot across the country, make a little stop in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and visit a friend of ours, Wolfgang Puck. Disclaimer, we don't really know Wolfgang Puck, but his garlic aioli French fries are freaking amazing, and that makes us almost family. So then we hopped our connecting flight, and then we were off to the old Pueblo, where we used to live, and home to our son and his car, Tucson, Arizona. Now, once we arrived in Tucson, we did the things that you normally do when you visit family. We invaded somebody's house. My middle son and his fiancee have purchased a house, and so, well, we went to work on the house, because that's honestly, it's just what we do, wherever we go. So then we drove up to Phoenix, and we had a meal with some friends that we were stationed at Japan with. We started working on fixing a couple of deficiencies in youngest son's car. And by the way, if you're having trouble sourcing a windshield washer fluid connection piece, you can find a suitable alternative, but it's at Ace Hardware in the drip irrigation department. Middle son also collects bass guitars. I don't have any idea where he inherited that trait from. But we had a nice talk with his band, and we talked about music gear, made a video for that. Then we went and helped them load in for a show. They were the headline support for a band called Soulfly. So enjoy a little bit of Never Reborn. And no visit to Tucson is complete unless you've had a meatball sub and crinkle cut fries at Luke's. We also visited a friend of mine down south of Tucson, John Malajak, over at Maniac's Garage, where we talked about how he got into the car customization field and looked at his car that was headed for the SEMA show. And then we also learned that 4 different cats, even though they're the same color, they don't have the same personality, and you have to treat each one of them with, different levels of understanding. About to be some fun. A little bit of fun. We are in Tucson, Arizona, and the sky is sad because it is crying. And today we're driving to Roswell, New Mexico.
Hampton.
On the first day of a 3 3/4 of a day drive back to the Ohio. So we might see something along the way. We might not. Alien abduction, not out of the realm of possibility. So like all good stories, this one starts out at a hardware store, or at least that's where the map flies out from. So we left Tucson in the Arizona, and the destination for the day was Roswell, New Mexico, and we just kind of took in the sights and sounds of driving through the desert. If you have never been through the desert areas of the United States, you need to treat yourself and drive through the desert areas of the United States. If you've never been to a desert, it's probably not what you think it's going to be. We have loved hiking through the desert over the years and driving through the desert, and we were in kind of a rush, but kind of not. So even though we were in kind of a rush, we had never stopped at this rest area before, and we thought we would, stop in. So first rest stop of the day, we're, about an hour east of Tucson at a place called Texas Canyon. And the weather is freaking glorious. Trying to shield the microphone from the wind because there is it's monsoon season, and they've had a killer monsoon this year. And there is, we drove through some showers, and right now it is 66 degrees, and the wind is blowing. My wife is hating it. Mrs. Rattlecan is not happy right now with the weather. I am just digging life, and we can see, let's pan over here a little bit more. We've just got overcast, gray skies. The sun is just not hammering us, because that's what we were expecting. We were expecting to just be beat to death by the sun, and so far it's not been that way. The further east we go, I think we'll get out of this system more so and into the sunshine. But man, it's a beautiful day to be driving through Arizona right now. So we decided to get moving. We have had discussions since my wife has retired from her 30 years of service in the Air Force about how nice it would be to just leisurely tool around the countryside and just visit a site here and visit a site there. And this is not that trip. We have got a set amount of time to get from Arizona to Ohio. We have stuff to do, and then we have to get from Ohio to Connecticut. And well, of course you have to stop at a tourist trap because it's kind of a rule. So we did stop here and found out that no, this Buick is not for sale, which nearly brought me to tears. So, but yeah, we're trying to pound the miles out. Now, Mrs. Rattlecan loves her national parks. She loves informative signs. She loves learning all kinds of things. So we have had our eye on this national park as we have crossed over from Arizona into New Mexico. This is the White Sands National Monument, and we were able to just take a little bit of time and just drive through and enjoy the sights. So after the obligatory selfie, we decided to get back on the road. We had to head over the Sierra Blanca, or the White Mountains, and the Mescalero Apache Reservation on our way over to Roswell. So at the end of a long day, the sun is setting in the western sky. We find our hotel, and then we grab something to eat and perform the nightly duty, which for me involves downloading the footage off of 3 different cameras and 2 different cell phones, so that we can, more easily make this video that hopefully you guys are going to enjoy. So here we are. We are at the end of day 1. Tucson, Arizona to Roswell, New Mexico, 465 miles. And ever the nurse, Mrs. Rattlecan, found someone who needed to put their mask on. Let's get some sleep.
All right, you're on.
Morning. Day 2.
To the right onto Clovis Highway, US 70.
Not a lot of extra content from beautiful downtown Roswell, New Mexico. There was no abduction. There was no probing. So today we are through New Mexico, a skosh of Texas, and then to Tulsa, Oklahoma. There's supposed to be nothing but high clouds, intermittent with blue skies. No weather for like the next 2 days, but we'll see.
1 hour and 28 minutes.
So day 2, we're headed out of Roswell, New Mexico. We're going to skip across a bit of the panhandle of Texas and then into Oklahoma. And we enjoyed 2 things in abundance on this day, straight and flat. The other thing that we noticed is the abundance of freight train traffic along this route. On there were tracks on the southern side of the road that we were on, and we saw, not kidding, train after train after train after train, because that's how stuff gets moved across the country. So something else that we learned is that there is a turnpike going through Oklahoma, and you can go 80 miles an hour. Well, you can legally go 80 miles an hour along this road, and that was actually pretty darn nice. We're actually using part of this trip also to learn about this vehicle that we're driving. It has bells and whistles upon bells and whistles, and things like radar guided cruise control and lane departure, and all kinds of crazy stuff that me and my big dumb truck don't have. So we're kind of having to learn this along the way. So anyways, we get to the hotel. This is the end of day 2. Roswell, New Mexico to Tulsa, Oklahoma, 575 miles, and trip total so far 1,040 miles. So we were able to wrestle up some grub. We were able to catch a couple of Z's, and then we're zipping off towards the Indiana. Things are starting to look kind of familiar greenish and trees and stuff. So, public service announcement. All right, next day we are Tulsa, Oklahoma to Terre Haute, Indiana, and we are on the I-44 Turnpike at the service area, and there is a scented presence that is a mixture of rancid hot dog water and perhaps ground up fermenting livestock feed, and it is exceedingly unpleasant. So if the service that operates the service station or the service area on I-44 in Oklahoma is paying attention to this, it stinks. So something I would be remiss in mentioning is that all along the route that we are taking, we see signs for Route 66 museums and rest areas and stuff like that. And that is, in case you don't know, at one time a very popular travel route from Chicago to Los Angeles. And there are all kinds of little mom and pop museums and areas along the way where you can look at cars and read about the route and how it was important to, commerce and fun and travel and vacations and all kinds of stuff like that. Back before and during actually the construction of the Eisenhower interstate road system. So, even here we have got a little Route 66 gas pump that you can have your picture taken next to. And this is the children's play area, and this is one of the rest areas that we have just stopped at. So if you're looking for something fun to do, check out and see if you are close to one of the remnants of the old Route 66 and give that a shot. Now, this next clip that I'm going to throw in here, I'm almost a little reluctant to do this, but it was part of our trip and part of the experience of our travel across the country. If you are not in the YouTube or the social media making business, you may not know the amount of effort that channel and content creators go through in order to find their audience and who their audience is, and a lot of times for channels like us, you're trying to find and attain a family friendly reputation, because it's not hard to find garbage on the interwebs, things that you would normally not want your kids to see. It's a lot harder to find content that would be considered family friendly. Now, in the family that I grew up in, we watched things like the Three Stooges and Mel Brooks and Gene Wilder and some of the Police Academy, some of the just kind of silly fart joke, type of humor. So I'm not even going to mention the name because I'm afraid of what YouTube's auto captioning would turn this into. But let's just take a moment here and enjoy some of the sights around this tourist destination that my prim and proper wife said we absolutely had to stop at. So when we travel across the country, we make every attempt that we can to stop in at a Shell station. And the reason for that is that we have a Shell credit card, and that's what we use to pay at the pump when we need gas. We think it's a more secure way. So if your card gets compromised, then the only thing that gets compromised is your ability to buy gas and beef jerky. So we ended up driving into this little town to get some gas, and I have to tell you, I know I'm married to the most amazing woman on the planet. We're supposed to say that as husbands, but I have proof positive, which I am going to share with you. As we finished filling up at this gas station, my wife says, "I think there's a car show across the street. Would you like to go?" And of course, my eyes bug out. Again, we're trying to get from point A to point B, but I think as kind of a reward for having to suffer through the previous tourist trap, I think she thought it might be a nice kind of a trade-off to, stretch our legs out a little bit and to walk across the street. And so, sure enough, we had stumbled upon a car show that has been held by the Rusty Rod's Car Club on the last Saturday of every month throughout the summer. And so we took a little bit of time out and we enjoyed what was laid out before us. So never let luck prevent you from having a good time. Here we are in beautiful downtown Highland, Illinois, where we stopped to get gas at a gas station. And I don't know if you can tell, we'll start at the edge of this city block. It's all hot rods and show cars all the way around this. It's like a city square, and all around the periphery they've got the roads blocked off, and it's all cars. So we're gonna go see some cool cars. Now, you may have sensed a small amount of childlike excitement in my voice because I dig cars. I love working on cars. I love building cars. I love driving cars. I love seeing other people's cars and talking to other people's cars. And this was a chance for, in fact, Jill took all of these photos. This was a chance to walk around and through her photos, see what it was that she thought, was neat. And it turns out that she likes really shiny, really nice, really expensive cars. But because of that short trip, that we had there going through the Illinois, we were able to have a talk about how, some of those cars were in original condition. But a lot of those cars had been found, in a barn or in a field in not that shape. And those people had put a lot of time and energy and sweat equity into making them what they were. So, I found I thought it was a good educational opportunity to have that discussion. And because of those couple of stops, we got into our hotel room kind of late. This was day 3, Tulsa, Oklahoma to the Terre Haute, Indiana, 562 miles. And so far we've driven 1,602 miles. So day 4 finds us somewhat close to home. We've got to get through Indiana and over into the Ohio. And we've decided we're tired of the interstate. So we're going to take a 2-lane highway across Indiana and back home, which we have found quite enjoyable. Well, good morning to you. It's our last day of the trip back home from Arizona, and we're tired of driving on the interstate. Mrs. Rattlecan and I have had this discussion that there's just not much to see. So we are currently in Rushville, Indiana, and we are taking State Route 44, which will cross the border into Ohio, turn into State Route 725. And so now we're just doing scenic driving. Lots of nice old houses, lots of quaint small towns, Lots of big, cool old cars. So last stretch home, and we may make a detour and see oldest daughter because we're actually driving right by where her university is located. Now, if you've got to get from point A to point B as fast as you possibly can, the interstate is the way to do it. But if you want to drive for pleasure, at least Mrs. Rattlecan and I think 2-lane highways, man, this is just where it's at. This is where you get to see, you get to see the heartland of America on a 2-lane road. So we're finally in familiar territory. We're close to home, and we're glad to be close to home. We have seen some parts of the country that we hadn't seen before, and we have, we've got some things scheduled that we have to get done. So we're gonna take a little time here in Dayton. We're gonna get some things done. This is the end of day 4, Terre Haute, Indiana to Dayton. It was only 196 miles. That brought our trip total up to 1,798. We are going to sleep in our own bed and pet our own cats, and then prepare for the next leg of this trip. So there's an old saying that goes, man makes a plan and God laughs, because he sees the whole picture. He knows what's going on. As we had talked a little earlier about, Mrs. Rattlecan's plan with me was that we were going to take a couple of days to just kind of leisurely saunter from Dayton, Ohio up to Groton, Connecticut, and deliver this car to our son. But circumstances said that's not what's going to happen. So instead of that leisurely pace, what ended up happening was we had tradesmen in the house up until a Friday, and then we had one day to get to Connecticut instead of 2. And instead of having 4 or 5 days to visit, we had 3 days to visit, and then we had 1 day to get back home because we had tradesmen on either end of that. So our nice leisurely trip to enjoy the autumn sights of the New England countryside on secondary roads became another get from point A to point B as fast as you can on the interstate system. But again, that's okay. We're just trying to help out where we can help out. So overnight, it had rained something fierce in Ohio, and we were not like our previous days coming from Arizona to Ohio, where there was no weather basically to speak of. Here we've got the remnants of a storm front. It did give us a pretty spectacular sunrise, and then I don't know what's up with this guy. His cruise control either was not working or didn't come equipped on that vehicle. So we had sun, we had some rain, we had some intermittent fog, but it just kind of gave a little bit of visual interest into at least part of this trip, where we have, let's say, we have made more than one trip across this part of Ohio. So this made things a little interesting. Now, we had been through parts of Pennsylvania, but most of that was in the northern part of the state as we were on another trip. We were headed up towards the Canada. So this was a chance for us to explore a little bit of this state that we hadn't seen. Now, we had originally planned for it to be on secondary roads, you know, going through the little villages and the little hamlets and enjoying, you know, what small town life has to offer. But again, circumstances were just not going to allow that. So at least the leaves were starting to turn a little bit, so we would get to, you know, get a little taste of that, you know, that famous New England fall color. Now, we had been exceedingly fortunate in the fact that we had not hit hardly any traffic at all. Now, part of that, we're going through a part of the country where there's just not a lot of people. And, you know, they've been packing them in here in the Northeast for hundreds of years. And so to hit a little bit of traffic out of as many miles as we have put down, you know, that's not so bad. So here we are, the last bit of driving to our final destination. Once again, we're arriving at night, and we're getting to drive through, you know, what should be some pretty interesting areas once we get to see it in the daylight. But this is the end of day 5. Dayton, Ohio to Groton, Connecticut, 757 miles. That brings our trip total up to 2,555 miles. It's always good to see your kids. And we all know that there is no love like a mother's love. And there is no love from Dad until he's had his coffee. So we decided to make the most of the limited time we had and see some sights around the area. There is, open to the public, a U.S. naval submarine that you can go into and take tours of. There's also a very nice state park close by with trails through the woods. There's a trail that runs down along the coastline. Be careful if it's high tide. And there's a bluff that you can sit out and, you know, you can look out upon the ocean. And if you really want to, you can experience the infamous New England traffic, especially if you're going to try and drive through the little town of Mystic on a Saturday afternoon. But we're hungry and we're looking for something to eat, and apparently close by there is a highly recommended seafood restaurant that we are trying to partake of. So in this part of the country, apparently dreams are made out of this thing called lobster. And it is something that comes, you know, like right out of the ocean, like that day, super duper fresh. So we decided to partake of the lobster in all of its many varied forms. They were even not kind enough to put lobster on a grilled cheese sandwich for somebody like me, because that's kind of the speed that I roll at. We also visited the Fort Griswold battlefield. And this is just a panoramic shot that I took from a viewing platform up here. In this part of the country, man, if you are a history buff, this is the place for you, because you cannot throw a rock without hitting something that was a pivotal piece in, the founding of our country. So there are museums, there are state historical sites, there are national historical sites. There are just beautiful walks through neighborhoods of these, this Cape Cod architecture that you see sprinkled throughout the country, but to see it in all of its glory in neighborhood after neighborhood is something else. And from this particular viewpoint, you have a commanding view across into New London. You can see the ferries, that are going to New York City and points beyond. And it's just an absolute gorgeous place to spend an afternoon. Now, in Mystic, there is also an aquarium. And you may or may not know this about Mrs. Rattlecan, but man, she loves her jellyfish. And we have spent a lot of time in a lot of different aquariums all around the world looking at jellyfish. And that's not a bad way to spend an afternoon. But after that, we went back to the lodge that we were staying at, and we just did something that we like to do, which is just hang out with each other. And we'll play Scrabble, or we'll play Scattergories, or we'll play cribbage, and we just get to enjoy each other's company and kind of catch up on what's been going on in each other's lives, and just get to have a good time. And it's through those times when you're just having casual discussions that you kind of figure that what you've been working towards, raising your kids to be productive and to be good citizens, well, we might have gotten that right. So finally, it's time for us to reverse that trek that we've done. And again, we're not going to get to do the nice leisurely 2-lane back road highway trip that we wanted. We ended up doing we got to do this in a day, because I got tradesmen that are going to be knocking on the door first thing in the morning. It's still pretty, the colors are still changing, and the weather is still not bad, but hopefully we'll be able to spend some time in that area of the country, not in such a hurry. The benefit of coming back at the time of day that we did is we got a beautiful Ohio sunset as we're headed back to our sweet home. And this is day 6, Groton, Connecticut, back to Dayton, Ohio, another 757 miles. And that brings our trip total to 3,312 miles. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to have a malted beverage and take a nap. Well, Mrs. Rattlecan and I would really like to thank you for coming along on a trip with us. We enjoy sharing our travels with people and things that we've done. As you can imagine, having been in the military for 30 years as a family, we've traveled all around the world, and we have seen all kinds of things, and we love to share those stories and those pictures and those videos with people who have not been able to experience the things that we have. So, if you found this entertaining, give us a thumbs up. Who knows? You might even want to subscribe to one of the channels. And now that we have gobs and gobs of leisure time, maybe we will actually be able to take those nice leisurely 2-lane highway back road trips through the little tiny parts of America that make us America, and if that happens, I'm sure that we will share them with you. Anyways, I'm James, and Mrs. Rattlecan sends her regards your way. You guys have a great weekend. Cheers.
If you enjoyed watching this episode of Mrs. Rattlecan's house, consider checking out this video. Be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, and to get the latest updates on our progress, like us on Facebook. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again soon.
Perhaps we should have some wine.